Welcome to Custom Home Builder Solutions, CHS Job Costing and Accounting Software videos. First of all, make this screen full screen for best view. This video is going to be an overview video, not with all the particular how-tos, that will come later, about posting one of your payroll checks to an employee that you will be allocating to job costs, both the amount of the wage and the amount of the employer burden, like Social Security taxes, etc., that is an employer expense. First of all, I have opened my chart of accounts here, and then I did a search for the financial section, everything in the financial section for general and admin expenses, so that I could just look at those. One thing you're going to need to consider doing is setting up a salary section dash construction, a chart of accounts, an account on your chart of accounts, to put the basic wages to, so you can store those there, the actual wage that you paid a construction employee that you will then be billing to a job cost in a very clean way in CHS. It's good to have the actual base wages in an account that you can just look at, because I have also added a section to my chart of accounts, a financial heading, a group heading, which you do by using this button up here. And I added a group heading that would come after my salaries and my payroll taxes and benefits section. And I added an account to my chart of accounts called payroll applied to job costs. That's going to be, and I misspelled payroll, I'll correct that later. That's going to be where credits are posted for the amount that you bill to job costs, so you can see that right underneath your expenses. So a credit would go in here, and then your job cost will get posted to the work in progress account for job costing that you designate for the employee. Now we'll go take a look at that and set up an employee for doing their wages and sending them to job costs. So we'll go to the employees list here for a minute, and I'm going to select this Francis Jones that I've had for a while in the past, and now we're going to change some of the things about his wages. First of all, let's decide we're just going to pay him $25.25 per hour. Now this wage GL is what I wanted to talk about. This is one that is actually basically under cost of sales for superintendents in this particular set of books. I'm going to go ahead and change that to salaries dash construction, and you may see why. All of this, of course, you need to discuss with your accountant about using these. I know it's not real clear at the moment, but you're going to see that I've set up to send his wages to that account. And then his tax expense account, I'm also going to get it down under payroll taxes. So when I print reports, which is down in the 8,000s, payroll taxes, just admin, I'll just call it that, excuse my dog. And you'll see why in a minute. He has a cost code already set up for job costing of superintendents, but I'm going to say that the 7.65% that I pay as an employer for Medicare and Social Security to match him, plus some for unemployment, plus maybe some other little insurance or other benefits, I'm going to say that I think that all adds up to about 10%, sometimes let's say 15%. That I'm going to add on to the base wage to take to job costing, and that's what this is. I'm going to write it up by 15% before I take it to the job cost account. Now here's where I tell it which job cost account I want the written up amount to be posted to when CHS posts his check. And then that account that I was telling you about at the first of the video, the 8199 payroll applied to job costs, that's the account I want to credit when I debit this account for that written up job cost amount. So you can see that I've set up this employee, which I don't need to do again. We're now going to save that, and we're going to go over and create a journal entry based on the payroll check that was written for him. So if I go home and I use the button for payroll journal entries, This will not be available till 2015 after this date, and this field will be locked for the users right now, but since I'm the developer, I've unlocked it so I can just play like I'm doing one in 2014, but I'll have to date it 2015 because this will not be available to until 2015, so that it doesn't interfere with any current ongoing payroll that people are doing in our old legacy CHS. One other thing that I'd like you to notice is that you should click the button to make sure that your payroll categories, and you can add more categories by using this button up here, are applied to the right accounts that you want them to be applied to when they're posted, if you do include any of these in your journal entry, and that your Medicare expense and payable and Social Security expense and payables are to the right payable liability accounts, because you'll need to be looking at these accounts just to see what they total to for your payroll tax liability. So we won't go over that in detail right now. We're going to run over and do our journal entry. Hopefully I won't get this video too long. And we want that Francis Jones, and I'll just make up some. I'm assuming there's a paycheck for Francis Jones that has already been done by your payroll service, and you are now wanting to just post it in CHS accounting. If you don't have an outside payroll service printing your checks for you, and you want to print a check for the employee, you're going to be able to select a payable account, a liability account, to post the net amount of the check to, and you could go to accounts payable and just post one line there to clear that payable account and actually print a check if you like, even though CHS will no longer be printing actual payroll checks for you, and assuming that you're using a payroll service. So let's click the button to create the journal entry. Now it's told me I can't do this in the year 2014 basically, so I'll just use 11514 and let it warn me about it didn't because of the way I clicked it, but because I did 15. It's warning me that I've entered a date quite a bit in the future, but I need to do that for this demo. So here's the screen that we will be using to add the new payroll check journal entry, and I'm always slowing down when I have videos, but it has 5 rows to enter records on. That's because I assumed, and you can add more rows with these buttons, but I assumed you might have regular pay, less federal withholding, less Medicare withholding, and less Social Security withholding. If you're adding or taking away anything else from their check, you can keep adding lines and selecting the appropriate payroll category. But I'm going to start out with selecting regular pay as this category, and you'll notice some things happening after I select regular pay. That GL number that I put in to post his regular pay to, his actual pay to, has dropped in. I set him up to be a CH department, and his pay per hour has dropped in. So let's just say we're paying him for 40 hours, and it's all on one job. So we keep this simple. We could make more lines to split out what the hours are, and there will be reports that show you the total hours, etc., per job and so on. But let's select our regular demo job here, and notice what happens right after I select a job. It has now opened some fields that have taken this $1,010, added 15% to it, and come up with an amount to send to job cost. It's also put in the GL account on my chart of accounts that I want this amount to be posted to, and the GL account I want this amount to be credited from, which would be right underneath where these wages are posted, the actual wages over here. Also, from the job budget, this is the amount that gets posted to job cost. If you happen to be marking up your job budget for cost plus jobs, etc., it will look to the budget and drop in a markup percent that's just used for cost plus draws. Later, that 25% would be added to that as the markup. So my next line will real quickly just be federal withholding, and I'm just going to guess some numbers here so that I don't have to go look those up, or I don't have a real paycheck in front of me. But that amount will error out if you put it as a positive, but you need to put it as a negative, and let's just decide it's $250 just for the heck of it. And the liability GL number dropped in, and that's all I need to do for that. Now let's do Social Security withholding, and it's fetching the GL number and checking for some other things. But notice now we have an employer Social Security expense area that has opened up in reaction to that. Let's just figure out real quick what 6.2% would be, which would be 0.062 in the quantity field of $1,010. That apparently comes out to 62.62, except I was supposed to do that as a negative number, it told me. And you can see over here that that's going to be deducted from the check. That's why we have this amount here to be deducted from the check. And we're going to put $62.62 also to employer Social Security expense, which is that 8110 payroll taxes expenses, payroll tax admin. And we're going to put that in a liability account on our chart of accounts for payroll taxes payable. These other fields do not need to be filled in, although I failed to mention up here when I was doing the job costing, I could do Francis, framing labor, or whatever, or superintendent, and I could leave out the Francis if I want, or whatever description you want to go to your job cost report you can type in there. And then I'm going to do Medicare, and it's finding the number I set up for my payroll categories for that, for the liability for that, because what you withhold from an employee is a liability. And let's just figure out what that would be, which is 1.45%. If these two numbers come out differently because of rounding, then you probably need to go make it come out the same by putting a 1 in, and then you've seen that it's 1465 or 1464. You'll probably have a paycheck that you're actually just posting from, so it'll get it more cleanly and won't object to it being out of balance. Rounding can cause that. So now we show that we have a net paycheck. If that ties to the paycheck that was given to the employee, we can select a bank account. We'll just call it, take it out of our construction checking or our operating checking, whatever our payroll checks are coming out of, and then we will submit this entry. Now if you for some reason want CHS to print out a check for $682.74 to this employee, you could go set them up as a vendor in accounts payable, and instead of posting this right now to a bank account, you could select a payable liability account that you're set one up to store something called payable to employees or something. And then when you go post your accounts payable to the vendor that you set up to cut so that you could print a check out of CHS, you would post that line to whatever payable account you selected here, just one line. This will be your payroll records. We'll store them and we'll be able to have some reports from that. And I'm going to go ahead and submit this and see if I entered everything correctly, because I'd like to go real quickly. See, I have some error. Let's see what my error is. So I didn't give him a cost code. I thought I had one to drop in over there, but maybe I changed it out. But let's do that superintendent's cost code. Since I had a job cost, it wanted me to give it a cost code for the job cost reports. So let's try to submit it again. It says that it's submitting it. It's basically creating a journal entry. It says the payroll entries have been posted. You would use the payroll tax liability GL accounts that you just posted stuff to figure out what your tax liability is. But if you're using a payroll service, they would already have figured that out for you. But your stuff just got put to the liability accounts, and if you go enter a manual check or post a payment for your taxes that the service did, you can just clear your liability accounts as needed. So that has been posted, and what I'd like to show you is real quick over in our actual costs database. If I search, and I'm going to search for H11 River. I'm assuming that cost code of 9 will end up being on some last page for me. but let's go to the last page of this, or let's just do a report real quick of that. It says please use this reports button. And we'll get a job cost report here. Let's go all the way to the end of it. Notice that here's the entry that I just posted, Francis superintendent wage, and it's at that written up amount, cleanly, just like that. Whatever you typed in for your description, it's on your job cost reports, has been sent over a bigger amount than what you actually paid them so that you can cover your employer burden. Now if you go back to your chart of accounts, and let's refresh this list of accounts. Always takes longer when I'm doing a video, of course, so I'm hogging up memory. Oops, I finished doing it and I clicked it again. Shouldn't have done that. But you'll notice that $1,010 is over here in sales construction, and what I want to do is it's doing slow script just because I'm running a heavy video. But notice that this payroll applied to job costs has a negative amount, so on your income statement you would see how much you have sent out of wages and taxes as a group, as a total, based on your percent you used, how much you've sent over to job costs away from your income statement. I hope you were able to follow that somewhat. I will have more detailed exact how-to videos later, but I wanted to introduce you to the window that will make it very easy for you to post your payroll checks and allocate them to job costs. Thank you.